If your plants keep dying no matter what you do, watch this, because this exact plant right here went from dry, yellow and nearly dead to this full green and thriving in just a few weeks. And the truth is, I didn't use anything complicated, no expensive tools, no expert tricks, just a simple system that most beginners never learn. And once you understand this, everything changes, because plant care isn't about guessing. It's about understanding how plants actually live, and over time, after growing dozens of indoor plants and turning struggling spaces into calm green environments, I started noticing patterns, small things that made the biggest difference. And today I'm going to break that down into 3 simple parts that you can follow immediately, even if you've never kept a plant alive before. So let's start with the first thing that silently kills most plants. Media group. Person explaining with indoor plants in background. Beginner holding potted plant indoors. Stock, distribute, equally light. Because if your plant isn't getting the right light, nothing else matters. You can water perfectly, use the best soil, even talk to it every day, but it will still struggle. And here's where most people go wrong. They place plants where they look good, not where they grow well. That dark corner might look aesthetic, but to your plant, it's survival mode, and plants need light to produce energy through photosynthesis, which is essentially how they feed themselves. So when light is too low, growth slows, leaves weaken, and eventually the plant declines. But here's the simple fix that changes everything. Media group. Bright, indirect light on indoor plant near window. House plant on windowsill with filtered sunlight as stock, distribute equally. Place your plant where the room feels naturally bright during the day. Not direct, harsh sunlight, but bright, indirect light near a window where it can absorb energy without stress. And if you're unsure, here's a quick rule. If you can comfortably read a book without turning on lights, your plant will likely be okay there. And here's something most beginners don't realize. Media group. Moving plant from dark spot to bright room. Person gently relocating potted plant indoors. Stock, distribute. Equally, plants don't adapt instantly. So if you move them from low light to bright light, they need time to adjust. Otherwise, they can shock. And that's why slow changes always work better than sudden ones. And in a moment, I'll show you a simple trick to test if your plant is getting enough light without any tools. But before that, let's move to the second thing that destroys more plants than anything else. Media group. Close-up of person checking plant soil, hand testing soil moisture in potted plant stock, distribute, equally watering. And this is where good intentions go wrong, because most people think more water equals more care. But in reality, overwatering is the fastest way to kill a plant. Not because of the water itself, but because roots need oxygen as much as they need moisture. And when soil stays wet for too long, air spaces disappear, roots suffocate and rot begins. And once that happens, it's very hard to reverse. So instead of watering on a schedule, you need to water based on need. And here's the simplest method. Media group. Hand sticking finger into plant soil. Checking soil dryness with finger. Person testing soil moisture as stock. Distribute. Equally, stick your finger into the soil about 2 inches deep. If it feels dry, water thoroughly. If it feels moist, wait. And this one habit alone will save most plants. And here's the part most people miss. You don't just lightly water the top. You water deeply until it drains out the bottom, because shallow watering leads to weak roots, while deep watering encourages strong root systems. And here's the open loop I mentioned earlier. Media group. Plant leaves drooping before watering. Subtle signs of thirsty plant. Indoor plant signaling for water as stock or distribute. Equally, there's actually a visual sign. Your plant gives right before it needs water. And once you learn it, you won't even need to check the soil anymore. I'll show you that in just a bit. But first, let's go into the third part that ties everything together. Media group. Wide shot of plants in home environment. Houseplants arranged in living space, a stock, a distribute, discern equally your plant's environment. Because plants don't just live in pots, they respond to the entire space around them, including humidity, airflow, and even stability. And one of the biggest mistakes beginners make is constantly moving their plants, trying different spots every few days, but plants prefer consistency. Once they adapt to a spot, moving them repeatedly causes stress, slows growth, and can even lead to leaf drop. So when you find a good place with proper light, leave your plant there and let it settle. And another overlooked factor is humidity, especially indoors where air can be dry. And while you don't need to overcomplicate it, simple things like grouping plants together or placing them near a water source can help create a more comfortable environment. And now let's close those loops I mentioned earlier, because this is where things get really practical. First, how do you know if your plant is getting enough light without tools? Watch the leaves. Media group. Plant leaves stretching toward light, leaning houseplant near window. Close-up of light-deprived leaves. Stock, distribute equally. If they are stretching, becoming thin, or leaning heavily toward one direction, your plant is searching for light, which means it needs to be moved closer to a brighter spot. And second, that watering signal most people miss. Media group. Gently drooping houseplant leaves, early signs of plant needing water. Close-up of softening foliage. Stock, distribute equally, slight drooping, not extreme, just a gentle softening of leaves. That's your plant telling you it's ready for water, and if you catch it at that stage, you're watering at the perfect time. And this is where plant care becomes intuitive instead of stressful, because you're no longer guessing, you're responding. And if you're finding this helpful, I've actually put together a simple, free plant care checklist that walks you through exactly what to check each week, so you never feel confused again. You can grab it in the description below. It's designed especially for beginners who want clarity without overwhelm. And now let's take this a step further, because once you master light, water and environment, you unlock something bigger. Media group, lush indoor plant growth, time-lapse of thriving houseplant, vibrant home plant, corner, stock, distribute. Equally, not just plant survival, but real growth. And this is where your space starts to transform, not just visually, but emotionally, because plants bring a sense of calm, rhythm, and life into your home. And over time, you'll notice something interesting. Media group, person quietly observing plants, slow morning with houseplants, mindful plant care at home, your stock, distribute equally. You start paying more attention, you slow down, you observe. And that's when plant care becomes more than a task. It becomes a habit, and even a form of quiet connection with nature. And whether you're a beginner just starting out, a gardener refining your space, someone who loves aesthetic environments, or even a researcher fascinated by how living systems respond and adapt, plants offer something meaningful at every level. And as your confidence grows, you can expand, try new plants, experiment with placement, even create your own indoor jungle. But it all starts with getting these basics right. And if you've made it this far, you're already ahead of most people who give up too early. So here's what I want you to do next. Media group, person tending to single houseplant, close-up of adjusting plant light, gentle watering of one plant a stock, distribute equally. Pick one plant, just one, apply what you learned today, adjust the light, fix the watering, give it stability, and watch what happens over the next 2 weeks, because that small win will change how you see plant care forever. And if you're ready to go deeper, I've created a complete beginner-friendly plant guide that breaks everything down step by step, including plant selection, setup, and long-term care systems. You can find the link in the description, and it's designed to help you go from struggling beginner to confident plant grower without confusion. And finally, thank you for being here, for spending this time with Leaf and Ladder, for choosing to grow, learn, and create something calm and beautiful in your space. And if this helped you, don't forget to subscribe. Share this with someone who keeps killing their plants, and keep growing with us one leaf at a time.